Are you ready to dive deep into the wisdom of Dwight D. Eisenhower? Dwight D. Eisenhower was not just a military man or a political figure. He was a thinker, a leader, and a visionary. His words have stood the test of time, often evoking a profound resonance that speaks to the challenges and aspirations of the human condition. What could you learn from his insights? Let's break down each of his famous quotes and unravel the deeper meaning behind them. You do not lead by hitting people over the head. That's assault, not leadership. Eisenhower underlines the fundamental distinction between authority exerted through violence or fear, and true leadership, which inspires and mobilizes people. In a world where authoritarian figures may use their power to subdue and command, this quote reminds us that the essence of leadership is not just about control, but about mutual respect and guidance. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. A warning that continues to be of monumental significance, this quote addresses the potentially dangerous symbiosis between the military and industrial sectors. It emphasizes the need for vigilance in ensuring that economic interests don't steer a nation into unnecessary conflict. Are you aware of the influences shaping your country's policies? I hate war as only a soldier who has lived it can, only as one who has seen its brutality, its futility, its stupidity. Here, Eisenhower gives a visceral account of war from someone who's experienced it firsthand. He's not a theorist, he's a practitioner. He underscores the brutality, futility, and stupidity of war. The question arises, how can we better address conflicts to avoid the tragedy of warfare? History does not long entrust the care of freedom to the weak or the timid. Freedom, Eisenhower suggests, is not just a right but a responsibility. It requires strength and courage to maintain. So how courageous are you in defending your freedoms? Farming looks mighty easy when your plow is a pencil and you're 1,000 miles from the cornfield. The quote vividly portrays the disconnect that often exists between theory and practice. Eisenhower warns against the dangers of armchair expertise. Are you sometimes too quick to judge situations you haven't experienced yourself? The supreme quality for leadership is unquestionably integrity. Without it, no real success is possible. Integrity is the cornerstone of effective leadership. Without it, any success is superficial and short-lived. How does your integrity shape your actions? Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. Contradictory? Not quite. Eisenhower emphasizes the process over the product. While a plan may become irrelevant, the act of planning equips you with the knowledge and foresight to adapt. How often do you find yourself anchored to plans instead of being adaptable? Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. A poignant statement on the opportunity costs of militarization. Every resource allocated to warfare is a resource not spent on social welfare. What choices are you making that divert important resources from more meaningful pursuits? Only our individual faith in freedom can keep us free. Freedom is not just a state, it's a belief system. It's not just about laws and constitutions, it's about the individual's commitment to those ideals. How committed are you to the principles that make you free? The search for a scapegoat is the easiest of all hunting expeditions. Eisenhower highlights the human tendency to blame others for our problems, which is a distracting and destructive practice. Are you hunting for scapegoats or solutions? The problem in defense is how far you can go without destroying from within what you are trying to defend from without. Defense can become a double-edged sword. By fortifying ourselves too much, we run the risk of eroding the very values we aim to protect. Are your protective measures undermining what you hold dear? A people that values its privileges above its principles soon loses both. Here, Eisenhower warns that privileging rights over responsibilities can lead to the erosion of both. It begs the question, are you taking your privileges for granted? There is nothing wrong with America that the faith, love of freedom, intelligence, and energy of her citizens cannot cure. A message of hope and empowerment, Eisenhower affirms that the solutions to a nation's problems lie in the potential of its people. Are you contributing to the betterment of your community? We are going to have peace even if we have to fight for it. A paradox that highlights the complexities of achieving peace. Sometimes, ensuring long-term peace necessitates fighting against tyrannies or injustices. What are you willing to fight for in the name of peace? What counts is not necessarily the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. An enduring lesson on the power of will and tenacity. Size and external factors may be less important than internal determination. How big is the fight in you? There you have it. Eisenhower's wisdom laid bare. These quotes are not just words. They are principles by which to navigate an increasingly complex world. Now, what will you do with this newfound wisdom? Are you ready to uncover the life of a man who was much more than just a president? Fasten your seatbelts and get ready for a journey through the life of Dwight D. Eisenhower, a man whose imprint on American history and the global landscape is both profound and unparalleled. His story is not just about military conquests or political feats. It's a narrative of determination, strategy, and leadership. Hold on tight, as you're about to discover how a young boy from a small Kansas town rose to become Supreme Allied Commander and eventually the President of the United States. The stakes are high, and the story is filled with suspense. Are you excited yet? The humble beginnings. Born in 1890, in a modest home in Denison, Texas, but raised in Abilene, Kansas, Eisenhower seemed like any other boy in a small, middle American town. Yet even in his early years, there was something that set him apart, a passion for competition and a fierce desire to excel, traits that would mark his life profoundly. But could a boy from a relatively unknown locale aspire to greatness on a world stage? The call to service. A pivotal moment came when he won an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point. Now, the stage was set. The young Eisenhower plunged into military science, history, and the art of warfare. However, his initial years in the military were fairly nondescript. For a long time, it seemed that Eisenhower might become one of the countless officers whose careers are distinguished but unremarkable. But then, World War II erupted. The climactic ascent, World War II. This was the arena where Eisenhower's true talents became unmistakable. Thrust into a war of unprecedented scale and complexity, he rose to become the Supreme Allied Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force. This wasn't just a role. It was an enormous responsibility. Eisenhower wasn't merely fighting battles. He was orchestrating an entire coalition of forces across multiple countries against the formidable Axis powers. Could he deliver a blow decisive enough to change the tide of history? D-Day. A moment that would define him and the world. The answer came on June 6, 1944, with Operation Overlord, commonly known as D-Day. Here, Eisenhower's leadership was put to the ultimate test. The stakes were impossibly high. The fate of Europe and the free world hung in the balance. Against all odds, and despite immense challenges and setbacks, the invasion was a triumph. The moment solidified Eisenhower's status as one of the greatest military strategists of all time. But was this the zenith of his capabilities? A turn to politics, the 34th president. After the war, you might expect Eisenhower to fade into the background, perhaps write a memoir or two. But no. Eisenhower had more chapters to write in the American story. Responding to what he felt was a new call to duty, Eisenhower transitioned into politics, eventually becoming the President of the United States in 1953. Now, he had the power to shape not just military strategies but the destiny of a nation. The legacy. During his 2 terms as president, Eisenhower expanded the U.S. highway system, navigated through the Cold War tensions, and worked tirelessly on civil rights issues, among many other accomplishments. He left office not just as a victorious general or a skilled politician, but as a statesman whose influence crossed multiple domains. So there you have it. The story of Dwight D. Eisenhower, a man whose life was a relentless pursuit of excellence, duty, and uncompromising leadership. From a small town in Kansas to the halls of global power, Eisenhower etched an indelible mark on history. Now that you've walked through his extraordinary life, how will his tale of tenacity and triumph inspire you? So, if you're feeling inspired, you know what to do. Hit that like button, share this video, and come join our tribe of history buffs and wisdom seekers. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.